There we go. Okay, we're up.
Can we push the? Are you coming in?
Yeah.
All right. Will you push the button on the monitor so that we can have visual podcasting?
By the way, if you're just tuning in, this is getting ready for Behind the Media Show. On the podcast, obviously, people don't get a chance to see this, Jimmy, as we're putting the show together. So this is just a little teaser, a chance for you to see us getting ready for the show, making sure everything is right. This is your little extra. This is for free, by the way.
Right.
You get to watch this for free.
You don't have to. We're going to be charging later?
No. I'm just saying it's a little freebie. So if you just tuned in, the show is coming on in just a second. We have about 2 minutes to go. So we'll have 2 or 3 minutes. Our clock is counting down, but we're getting ready. We have a guest who's coming on.
Everything is working.
I made he called me, so we are good to go on that. I checked the audio. We always have our water.
And Dan, I did bring in my copy of the swimsuit edition. Oh, wait. I'm only showing the back.
Oh, that's the
tee.
Wait.
Which way is it?
Yeah, which way?
We will be talking.
Jimmy.
We will be talking about this.
What's neat about this here is that Jimmy last week, if you were watching last week, behind the production of Behind the Media, Jimmy walked in. I think at that point, whatever he grabbed that he could find and walked in and said he wasn't prepared for the show.
Correct.
But what's funny, Jimmy, you're able to do a very good show when you're not prepared, where you're unprepared.
That's a scary thought, Dan.
You know, like those people who have operated under the influence in sports and so forth and have done, or in Hollywood, and they've done some remarkable work. And
why are you looking at me
now?
I'm
not.
just saying.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying it happens. But
are you
anyway.
saying? Because I
No.
Probably.
No. I didn't say anything.
I could
at all.
probably expound on that thought if you would like me to, but I'm going to.
So what I'm
use
going to
my
do,
edit function right here and not expound.
By the way, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to at some point when we're talking about the gun thing, the wrong numbers. What are you looking at
adjust
yourself
the
for,
camera.
Jimmy?
I don't want myself over my shoulder. I want Dan over my shoulder, if that's possible.
Oh, okay, there you
That's
go.
a little bit. Now he's coming out of my head.
Again, a reminder: if you just tuned in, you're watching behind the scenes of Behind the Media production. So we're getting ready, but we thought it'd be interesting. People like to see what happens, how the sausage is made.
That's
you can barely hear me because
that
Jimmy's over there
sense.
screaming. He's trying to do his vanity thing. That's Stephen Helmuth, who is the director of this show.
You're assuming that he has that camera on that you can actually see him.
Well, he walked in front of both of the cameras, so you'd see somebody. He walked in front of all three cameras.
I'm so confused right now. All right, we're talking swimsuits first.
Yes, and I have. I will tease. I'm not going to talk about the whole thing, but at some point I will tease out the opinion piece that I wrote. And we'll invite folks, if they'd like to read the whole thing, to check it out on our site. We'll be posting it on our site, on Twitter, and CLNS.
Gee.
Yes.
Maybe I should write something like an op-ed, like an op-Dan blog thing.
Opt-ed.
An opt-in.
Yeah, it's my father-in-law's blog.
Okay,
we're about 30 seconds counting down to the top of our show. 30. That's what my clock says. What does your clock say? 30 seconds?
My clock says tick, tick, tick.
Oh, 12. Okay.
My clock says tick, tick. Oh, I put the wrong picture up.
Let's rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. Hit it, Steve.
You're tuned in to Behind the Media. Dan Lothian and Jimmy Young bring 70 years of award-winning broadcast experience to the table. From newsrooms across the country, behind anchor desks, and in the field, they've seen and covered it all. And now they are here to take you behind the media.
You're going to have to embrace technology. If you're an educator,
I'm embracing it.
I want you to use the phone to help teach these kids.
You don't need to do that. I was covering the president in China, and we did a behind-the-scenes video. This is a gong, or
no, not a gong, a bong.
A bong.
With a B.
That's right. I said
the
gong.
Gong is a
That's
gong
right.
show.
I said gong.
Gong makes noise.
Bong.
Okay.
Why is it, Jimmy? Why?
Because sex sells, Dan.
True, but it's only part of the answer. It is, you have to be more creative now to be able to tell a story, and sometimes it's just a before and after picture and saying, which one do you want to be? Hello, everybody. Sizzling swimsuit models, steamy poses, and body-affirming messaging. Sports Illustrated's once-a-year special edition is on the newsstands. the virtual ones and the real life ones. But in this Me Too era, should the swimsuit pages go the way of the Cold War? 18 school shootings so far in 2018 sounds like a compelling headline. It was. Everyone ran with it. It went viral. But there's one problem with that number. Stick around and we'll tell you the truth. We all know that newspapers have been struggling for ways to stay relevant and make money. Could Harry Potter and Pokemon Go be the answer? And our fourth quarter, Bytes Behind the Media, highlights to keep you in the loop in case you were sleeping at the wheel. This week, why KFC became FCK. Twitter goes out of bounds, and Billy Graham, whose faith and media savvy moved mountains, passes away at 99 years old. Listen up, America. Behind the Media is becoming your must-listen-to podcast. We're making waves and having fun. I'm Dan Lothian.
Oh, and I'm Jimmy Young.
Use the hashtag Behind the Media to interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and find us on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. This episode is brought to you by WorkZest. Get to know me. It's engaging content for the workplace. You can't wait for your February edition of Sports Illustrated, women in small two-piece or one-piece swimsuits, and by one piece, I mean one of the pieces of a two-piece swimsuit.
Or no pieces.
No pieces.
Sorry.
The Me Too movement is empowering women and breaking down old, troubling norms. So why are we still running this yearly flesh fest? I'm tired of it, Jimmy. It's time for it to end.
Oh,
Done.
Sorry, I was distracted, as you can well imagine. Anyway.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yes.
Why are we still doing this? I mean, this is a magazine that as a teenager, it's basically soft porn. I
totally disagree with that.
Once a year,
Well, hang on a second.
they send this thing around, and as a teenager, who grew up in Florida and saw bikinis all the time, but nonetheless, this thing comes out, and you aren't getting it for the articles. I don't care what it is that they're saying. Oh, we're empowering women by showing them in, full-size women or someone who's missing a limb. The bottom line is they are being exploited, period. Nothing else.
Is it
done?
Now,
should I just take my microphone and drop it right
here?
here?
Yeah, you could. That would be cool. Are you done?
Yeah, I'll yield the floor.
Yield the floor to the typical male in the room, if you will?
Yes, and that's what you are.
Thank you very much.
Falling for this trap.
It is not a trap.
Yes, it is.
No, let me ask you a question.
Okay, I'll yield.
Does the modeling industry exist?
Yes, it does.
Okay, do you give it credibility?
Well,
for males and females, by the way.
I guess I don't pay much attention to it.
Are for most of the images that are portrayed here in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, are they not of super duper models?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
and some non-models, sports people and so forth who aren't models.
There are, and actually, I love seeing the athletes' bodies because they are specimens of the highest caliber of a human. And by the way, even Vince Wilfork has posed in the body edition of ESPN.
A big guy.
The body issue of ESPN, which is a little bit different than the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition.
Right.
Okay. So, first of all, let's give a little history. 1964, the first cover ever.
By the way, that's the year I was born.
Well, you missed out because I was 7. Okay, no. And they were looking for an article, something to continue to draw attention to the publication of Sports Illustrated during the winter months after football.
Slow months, when people are tuning out.
No question.
They're hunkering down for the winter.
Correct.
Yes.
And they put a attractive female on the cover in a two-piece bikini bathing suit, and it became the highest sold edition of Sports Illustrated for the year. Guess what? That trend still continues to this day.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that were happening in 64. A lot of things that we look back on in terms of civil rights and so forth. A lot has changed since 64. Just because it worked and it was good and it's appropriate at the time doesn't mean we have to keep doing it. And certainly not in this current climate where we're trying to move far away from some of these troubling norms that we've had.
And I will give Sports Illustrated credit because in this edition, during the Me Too movement, okay, they actually show a half dozen to a dozen models, including Needham, Massachusetts' own Allie Raceman, I might add, with just single words in a black and white photo examples. I don't want to use the other word, but it is a photos example, okay? And it talks about the beauty of the female, beauty of the female body, and how. And Aly Raceman's one word on here was survivor. We have lupus warrior. We have more. Oh. Roll.
See what I mean?
Then, well, no,
you got distracted.
I'm distracted because I'm trying to read on women's bodies what they're writing.
There you go.
Built to carry the weight. Human. Okay. You know what?
But you know what? That's
women
window.
Are,
it's
women,
window. You know what? It's window dressing. It's a way.
Oh, so you're now calling females windows?
No, what I'm saying is that they are using the tactics of saying, "Oh, look, this is an edition about loving your body,
and it's
full-figured women. It's
I think
about
that women need to be celebrated.
But
women are being celebrated.
It's not celebrating women. It's using the medium.
If they're not, hang on a second.
Yes.
If this is not offensive to the people who have put their bodies on display for messaging purposes, what is the problem with that?
It's offensive, and they don't even realize it. They're doing it because it's market. I'm offended by it.
Okay, fair enough. Then guess what? You, in a free society, you can opt out and not get this in your mailbox.
But then you brought it in and showed it to me.
Because I have been a subscriber for 50 years,
or
however long it has.
You don't even read through the rest of them. You read through this one, like a lot of the men. Actually, the thing is that they're
hang on. First of all, don't tell me how I read my magazines. Okay. Second of all, I do read it word for word every week in Sports Illustrated.
I'm going to give you a quiz to find out if in fact you do.
Well, you ready for this? I was at Nevis, or is it Nevis? Okay, there's a picture of where I was at right here. Yes. It's where one of the photo shoots was.
Wait, is that a commercial?
That's a commercial for the resort.
You're reading the commercials. Oh, yes,
I'm reading and you know what? Speaking of commercials, the back cover is very, very clever by our friends at Snickers.
Yes.
Okay, because what they showed was how are we going? This was a creative. This is Snickers, black and white storyboards.
Right.
What are we going to use for our full page ad?
Right.
Right. And these were the different suggestions. Right. Leech bums. Reading just some of these. We body painted some random mimes. Okay, and they came up with this one here, which is basically a woman in a asbestos removal suit. And again, look, it's a great ad because guess what? We're talking about it, and we're talking about the magazine, which means
you're right.
This is worth talking about it.
But
it's commercial media, Dan.
I know.
They're making money off this. In fact, they're making more money.
Exactly.
10% of their revenue every year is off this edition. They've made over $1 billion since 1964.
And that's the problem because it's about the money here. But
so you're going to tell me if we don't have this magazine, all of a sudden men are going to start respecting women?
No, absolutely not. But I do think that to kind of hide behind, we are empowering women with this issue by having them write on their bodies
and have a female photographer
that's fine.
Shoot it, as well as a female model shooting it.
Yeah, look, that's fine. But I'm saying that it is about the money, and we should just keep it. If you're going to try to have it both ways and say, oh, there's some greater good in these naked women that we're putting out there, that's where I have a problem with it. It's not about the swimsuits, with messaging on it or women with larger bodies. It's about putting women's bodies out there so that men will buy it. Period. That's what I'd like to find out how many women are buying that magazine and how many men after reading this will change their minds about something.
You're going off. There's 4 or 5 thoughts I could go on. First of all, I know females look at this magazine to buy bathing suits. In fact, recently they do.
That's what Victoria's Secret or whatever those other things are for. They don't do bathing suits. They do underwear. Well, whoever does the bathing suits.
You actually look at the Victoria's Secret.
No, I don't.
That's okay.
That's why I didn't know what it was. I just look. I'm not alone.
Women in underwear is okay in a commercial entity as a marketing tool.
All women wear underwear. They have clothes over the top of them. But I will say that I'm not alone in my thinking. The HuffPost, Emma, right?
Emma Gray, who's a feminist. No, you're not. You're not alone. You're aligning yourself with a feminist.
I'm not saying I'm aligning myself with anything other than there are other voices out there who agree with me. And she writes in this piece in the HuffPost, quote, the 2018 Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue seems to have made the women in it feel really good and certainly made a handful of people a bunch of money. We were talking about it. But did it bestow any real, actual power on women as a whole?
Hang on a second.
Absolutely
Is that
not.
the job of Sports Illustrated as a publication?
Not.
No. They want to make money.
They want both. they're making money and they want to hide behind saying that it's messaging.
No.
It's empowering. That's how they're trying to get away with it in these times.
I think it's getting attention. I think they've done a good job with it.
That's what it is. Get attention, make money.
And make money. That's commercial media.
Look, I love commercial media, but I think you can't have it both ways. Either go all the way in and say, you know what, we don't really care about, what's going on right now. We just want to continue doing what we've done forever, which is putting naked bodies out there. Or stop doing
naked
it.
bodies.
I didn't say they weren't beautiful.
Okay.
But let's go on.
Let me tell you, I'm envious of the bodies that I'm looking at, especially the males.
Go to the gym and have a nip and tuck, and you'll be
please,
just fine.
it is horrible at the
Now
gym.
let me wrap up with what she says here.
With
going on with what Emma Gray is saying here. Quote, women learn early on that their greatest and primary value lies in their appearance and whether that appearance is deemed desirable enough by men. The Me Too movement is, in part, about exposing the ways in which women's bodies are objectified and then weaponized against them. Sports Illustrated, or SI, she says, has spent decades making big money off that objectification, and a handful of artful nudes and big block letters does nothing to counteract that.
Well,
Amen.
I disagree 100%. It does everything to counter it because they're recognizing it exists and they're giving their athletes and their models an opportunity to showcase who they are, what they are all about. And it is bringing attention to the issue, and it's allowing people like us to talk about it. Because the more we talk about something, Dan, there are going to be two sides. There are people who don't want this magazine to come into their mailbox, so Sports Illustrated offers an opportunity to opt out of the swimsuit edition.
That's true, but they keep coming back with it. It is, as you have pointed out, it makes up for 10% of their yearly revenue. This is how they make their money. This is the biggest attention getter that they have. It is about exploiting women's bodies for profit.
You know what?
That's fine. Just don't tell me, though, that you're doing some good social
let me ask you a
good with
question.
this magazine.
A couple years ago, they showcased women athletes with their male partners.
Yes.
Okay. So my feeling is, and again, I don't see why Sports Illustrated doesn't take a page out of what ESPN does.
And put men in there.
And put men in there.
Okay, that would ratchet it down a little bit. I wouldn't be as hot about it. I wouldn't be sweating and jacked up the way I am now.
I'm going to take that as a win then. I'm going to take that as a win.
Take that as a win.
I'm going to take that as a win.
Okay.
Again, modeling exists. It is part of our pop culture. It's part of our business culture. It's part of our opportunities to talk about this. These are still professionals. They know exactly what they're doing. And aren't the NFL owners exploiting the employees that they have every single week by taking years off their lives? And they opt in for that.
Everybody's exploiting everyone. Just don't tell me that you're exploiting and doing some social good. I'll give you the last word. One last thing, Mr. Reverend.
My feeling is wouldn't be
Mr. Reverend.
By the way, that's a double thing.
I know. After I said it, but it was
Reverend
funny,
or Mr.
But
okay?
you have to say
it.
It's pretty funny though, Mr.
My
Reverend.
feeling is I give
Mr.
Sports
Reverend.
Illustrated credit. I do, because they are trying to recognize the fact that yes, this has been put into a category like so many things that they've done in the past. Okay, and they're trying to do something different to recognize that, you know what, women are still very proud of who they are, what they are, and they're using this as a media vehicle to spread and share their feelings about it.
Okay. If you like the show, share it. Subscribe on iTunes.
And
please keep listening to Behind the Media.
Are we done with this?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Ring the bell, Mr. Jimmy. This is Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We're just two guys bucking heads, making waves, and having fun. We serve it up hot and fresh. All you have to do is enjoy it. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and find us on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. This episode is brought to you by WorkSess. Get to know me. It's engaging content for the workplace. And by Little Park Media, where ideas come to life. On a more somber note, 18 school shootings so far in 2018 sounds like a compelling headline. It was. Everyone ran with it. It went viral. But there's one problem with that number. It doesn't add up. This was troubling.
It depends on your definition of a school shooting.
Yeah.
And it gives you the idea that the group, Every Town for Gun Safety, put out that number, that figure of 18. And they explain what their definition is or was of a shooting at a school.
Here's the problem. So they explain it on their site, But based on reporting, no, you just said it. They say they have a definition. Right. They tell you exactly what it is. So anytime, go ahead and read it. Yeah, what is their definition of a school shooting?
This is the definition.
Yes.
Consistent with expert advice and common sense, every town uses a straightforward, fair, and comprehensive definition for school shooting. Anytime a firearm discharges a live round inside a school building or on a school campus or grounds is documented by the press and, when necessary, confirmed through further inquiries with law enforcement or school officials. Right. So it's incidents in which guns were brought into schools but not discharged is not considered a gun shooting.
Right. But here's the problem. They put that on their website. And according to the Washington Post, only one time when it goes out via social media have they put that disclaimer or that notice as to how they count their data. And so what happens, and when they push out these big numbers, usually happens anytime there is an official big, what we would characterize as a real shooting. Unfortunately, most of the cases that they highlight are things such as a shooting that happened at a school that hasn't been a school in several months. It was a place that was shut down.
That was one.
I did not say all the time, but most of theirs, when you look at them, one time it was a police officer who had discharged a weapon. Another time it was an unintentional discharging of a weapon. So when you
shots fired in a parking lot, and as a part of a disagreement, though, it was shooting.
But I'm not saying that all of them. But when you do the count, you can't come up with a number anywhere near 18. It's shocking. And I know, Jimmy, you use these numbers. A lot of other big traditional media folks use this number. And it was thrown around. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, that sounds high. And in fact, it really is, because I think what you're doing is you're making people think that 18 school shootings means what just happened in Florida. Where someone went in and people were killed. And I think that is misleading.
And that's a mass murder, just for the record.
It is a mass murder. Okay. But the thing is, it's very misleading when you lump these things together. And the problem is that how do you believe when they do come out with new information that could be vital in helping to figure out ways to address this problem? People look at it and go, if they're playing with those numbers, what else are they playing with?
Well, I will say this. I think as a reporter, Dan, you and I have talked about this. Attribution, when citing a statistic like this, is extremely important.
Right.
Okay. Where did you come up with that number, or something I always ask and we get all the time. Where did you come up with that number? You must be able to attribute where you got that number from.
Exactly.
And this group, every town's data does give you an idea, lists exactly what it is.
You're right. And I shouldn't be pointing. They want to get attention for their organization. That's what they do. It's a big media problem, though, that we tend to grab numbers. We like to use big, eye-popping numbers, and we grab that stuff and we run with that stuff without figuring out where did it come from? Is it in fact correct? And questioning it. And it wasn't until the Washington Post, we saw it in the USA Today, some other publications have now been calling those numbers into question. But initially, everyone was going with it. They just accepted it as fact. Yeah. When it didn't make sense right away.
Well, again, unfortunately, in this day and age, after 6 or 7 weeks in 2018, we've had a number of school shootings in whatever capacity you define what that is. A firing of a firearm on a school grounds or around a school. And I think we both agree that the number one is all you need to be upset about this.
Just one. You're right.
One.
We don't need 18.
No.
So that's the problem. These numbers are being hyped, and news organizations love to report on the breaking news aspect of these kinds of things.
Sensational.
It is.
It's
right.
We understand embellishments. We understand sensational. It gets people's attention.
It does.
Which drives ratings to that particular media. It's commercial media.
But isn't the more responsible thing for news organizations to do is say, you know what? Yes, we have to report these things when they happen. Yes, we have to report breaking news. But shouldn't we be reporting on an ongoing basis about the gun debate, about school safety, right? Not just report around breaking news. It becomes this formula kind of reporting, as we found out in the Boston Globe. There was a wonderful article there about how it really is just a formula. Just plug in different dates and different names in different towns. And we rely on that when it happens. But there should be a beat reporter to cover school shootings. I mean, that's the only way we're going to have. We need to raise awareness of this problem every single week, maybe every day.
I think it's beyond. The shootings is the attention grabber. The educational beat.
Right.
And is something that should be done on a regular basis. We were talking about this before, how we both believe that teachers are terrifically underpaid.
Exactly. They should be the highest paid people in the world.
Because education builds the future. It feeds the future. And the kids are the future. And by the way, the kids from that high school have done a great job of saying, you know what, enough already.
They have a wonderful media strategy of getting out there. They're getting attention. There have been a lot of critics for what they're doing, but they're getting the message. They're getting out in front of the cameras, and the cameras are pointing on them. And then CNN came out with this wonderful town meeting, which I thought was great as well. So, yes, kudos to these young people. Kudos to the news organizations that are, in fact, doing something now. But we want that to happen all the time.
All the time, because it's the only way it's going to stop, and it's going to put pressure on our representatives in Congress. And that's what this hopefully will do, is actually spur the democracy that we live in to make changes. I think what you're hearing more than anything else now, not just with the kids, but with the female Me Too movement. People are fed up. People are angry. People's emotions are raw right now, and it is time to make a change. The fact that we have 16 and 17-year-old kids who cannot vote in our country, leading the way on a political issue that has been part of our modern society now for 30 years, even farther back than that. I remember locally here in Massachusetts, they had some of the most stringent gun laws introduced in the 70s.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And here we are 50 years later, and you're still, and now it's been fed, and now you've got assault rifles taking out people. Assault rifles have got to be banned.
Mr.
Period.
Reverend Jimmy. Wow. I've never
fired
seen
up.
you fired up
I'm
like
pissed
that.
off.
You know,
just
honestly,
like that parent in front of the POTUS guy.
Look, I was upset as well. And, you know,
I
wrote an opinion piece called Shut Up and Do Something, Media, Shootings, and Misinformation. And I won't read the whole thing, but one of the quotes from this opinion piece that I wrote this week, I get it. Bigger numbers add shock value. That gets attention. Just maybe somebody will act. However, it could also become the focus of critics who raise questions and cast doubts about tactics, asking, should we believe anything else they say? That kind of, sort of the highlight of what I said earlier. If you want to read the entire opinion piece that I wrote, check it out on our website. We'll have it on Facebook. We'll also have it on Twitter. It'll be on the CLNS. I think it's already up on the CLNS Media Network.
Yes.
It's just, and again, we're not here as experts to talk about the whole gun debate in general. It's more of how the media is covering it. And we tend to cover it knee-jerk, the same way the politicians talk about it when something happens. That's the way we cover it. But let's not just only cover this when there's breaking news.
And you mentioned CNN, who always seems to be in the forefront of every issue when it comes to the media. They carried the head of the NRA's speech, I believe it was yesterday, which would have been a Thursday, at a conservative conference in Baltimore, and he was one of the first ones who said, you know what, we need to arm the teachers, which, by the way, shows the ignorance of the people that wave that flag. Sorry.
Okay, Jimmy, if you like the show, and if you like what Jimmy just said, tell us about it.
No, I don't want to hear from you, actually. If you like, I don't want guns in the hands of teachers.
Okay.
I don't want guns out there, period. End of story.
Share the show. Subscribe to us on iTunes and keep listening to Behind the Media. Behind the Media. This is, of course, Halftime. This show brought to you by WorkZest. WorkZest. Get to know me. Engaging content for the workplace.
This show is flying.
So your employees come to work. Maybe they like it, maybe they don't. They do their jobs and then go home. Some are in it for the long haul. Others see it as merely a stepping stone. How can the workplace be more engaging? What can management do to better communicate, to be more approachable? WorkZest delivers original videos, articles, podcasts, and motivational speakers in one toolbox. WorkZest, engaging content for the workplace.
And this show is also brought to you by Little Park Media, where ideas come to life. Get more at info@littleparkmedia.com. Every week there's so much happening in media. Others give you dribs and drabs. We deliver the goods. This is Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
Use the hashtag Behind the Media to interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and find us on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. This episode, again, is brought to you by WorkZest. Get to know me. It's engaging content for the workplace. We all know that newspapers have been struggling for ways to stay relevant and make money. Some are forced to close their doors. But could Harry Potter and Pokemon Go be the answers? Joining us live on our WorkZest phone line is Jack Mitchell, publisher of the twice-weekly Ledger-Dispatch in Jackson, California. Jack, thanks for joining us.
You bet. You bet.
This is
glad to be a part of it.
Yeah,
look, live, huge metropolis that is Amador County, twice-weekly, 6,000 circulation newspaper.
Well, and yes, small newspaper that's getting worldwide attention. I'll tell you, when I saw this, and I don't know how I first ran into it, but I believe it was on my social media feed. I was sitting there in the morning, my typical read-in to see what's going on around the world, and this popped up, and I said, this is great. We've got to talk to this guy, because we've had a lot of discussions about how newspapers are just dying, and people are looking for creative ways to get the younger generation to still pick up that paper and hold it. And this is a wonderful way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really fun. So, for me, basically, right before Christmas, I was at a Christmas party, and like all great journalism stories and all great publishers, this one starts with a bottle of wine.
I love that. I just came back from Napa Valley. That's awesome. What?
Of mine,
Go ahead.
A friend of mine brought a bottle of 19 Crimes wine to me, and it's a little winery in Australia that came out with an augmented reality app that basically, when you hold your phone over their wine label, the historic crime figure talks to you. It's very creepy and very cool.
Creepy and cool.
Effective. Yes. Very effective. So, yes.
Yes. So I said, that's just awesome. I said, does it work in newspaper? And he said, you know what? I don't know that anyone's ever asked. And so several of bottles of wine later, at about 4 a.m., I had a mock-up page of my paper. There's a lovely shot of me, half drunk, half sober, in a T-shirt. And when you held your phone over that picture, I would babble out, welcome to interactive news. And I thought, man, this is it. This is great. We can make our newspaper come to life with augmented reality. But I had to ask my boss, of course, if it was a good idea. So I went to my wife and said, is this a good idea? And she said, oh, my God, this is really cool. Can you do this? And I was like, yeah. And she said, well, can you do it fast? And I said, I think. She said, can you keep your mouth shut? I said, well, we both know I can't do that. So I came into my boss. Our newspaper's interested. It's owned by the Jackson Band of Miwok Indian tribe.
Oh, good.
Here. And went in and showed him. I said, are you a fan of 19 Crimes wine, or have you ever heard of 19 Crimes wine? And he said, no. And I said, well, are you a fan of Harry Potter? And he said, no. And I said, well, you're going to be a hard sell. But
I wrote down. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, that's okay. So I basically said to him, I said, obviously, we're not in the Harry Potter world, and we don't carry around wands, but we do carry around cell phones. And I said, what if, and I laid down my lovely video of me, what if in our newspaper, when you saw a photo and I put my phone over the photo, and of course the picture started talking to him and came to life. And he said, my God, he goes, that is just the future of newspaper, and that's crazy. What do you need from me? And I said, well, I need to get a software company and a platform to build what we want. And I need to spend a lot of your money. He said, well, you're doing that already, or half of that. And he said, no, he said, go and do this and do it fast. And so we got with Strata out of Utah and partnered in and built a platform specifically designed for newspapers to turn their content. So now today, and this, like I said, it's right before Christmas, so we're in late February here. We have a functioning platform that allows you to tie your photos and blocks of content from your newspaper. You can tie it to video. You can tie it to audio. You can tie it and have it jump to websites. So, for example, like my movie times right now, when I run the movie times, you scan your phone over the movie poster or the little thumbnail of a movie poster. It will play the trailer for you. You can get the reviews of that movie. You can see the Rotten Tomatoes score, and you can hit a button and buy the ticket directly from Fandango to that movie. So it's direct shopping.
And how does that work? Is
Wait,
there
wait,
like
we
a
have some B-roll.
barcode?
We have some B-roll that I think
we're showing. Is there a barcode embedded in the picture, or what is it that triggers the device?
So this is the best part, and I don't know how we missed it. And I remember a few years back hearing about this is a QR code technology.
Okay.
It's just a quick read. It's just like when you download an app with a quick reader or download different pieces. The thing is, the QR readers progress, and at a certain point, it's been quite a while, anything can become a QR code.
I did not know that. So any picture or anything?
The photo becomes, yes, the photo becomes the QR code. So like right now on my business card, when you hold your phone with my app over my business card, I have the world's thinnest TV. And it'll play a 2-minute video about how you use interactive news, and on the other side, what the back end of that looks like to create those.
How do you take? Hang on, I'm just going to interrupt you because that's what I do here. How do you engage your audience into not just, hey, this is a really cool thing to see and do, but how are you going to actually engage? You mentioned one thing, you can actually go right to the website or make a purchase. That has to be extremely appealing to advertisers or marketers. I'm looking for an engagement.
Correct.
I'm looking for engaging opportunities because that's what everybody in media is looking for.
So if you look at it and I break it down into several different pieces. On the advertising side, it's obvious. So you have the digital world, which is great. And they said, hey, everyone needs to have a website. So everyone has a website, or everyone has several websites. Everyone needs to be on Facebook. Everyone needs to be on Instagram. Everyone needs to be all over the place, Twitter. And so what happens is it becomes very noisy. Have you ever gotten lost on the internet looking for something?
Every day.
So now when I write a story about something and I say, here's where to get more information, or here's where to go to that advertiser, I can directly link them to that advertiser through phone, through digital. I can have all those buttons that lead them directly to where they want to go so they don't get lost anymore and have to figure out, am I buying the right ticket or making the donation to the right spot? On the news side, it's much deeper content. So now when I go in my little town, let's say I have a grand jury report and I have a story on the grand jury findings. Now you can wipe your phone over the page and I can see the presentation of that grand jury report to the judge or to the political offices. I can also click a button and get my own copy of the PDF of the grand jury report.
Wow.
I can also have contact if you want to make a request of the grand jury to investigate. So it's just tying deeper content pieces. In sports, I can now show you a video of the last 2 minutes of that game. You can see the player stats if you hit a button. You can look at their schedule coming up.
So where
Just
before
deeper
you couldn't drop all that information into an article, you're always looking at what can you take out. Now you can fit more into your paper now. Just do shorter pieces and then take them somewhere else.
Yeah, so like my fishing report, for example, the last 3 issues, I run out of space, don't have room on the page for a full fishing report. I can run a small block with listen to your fishing report, and you now have a 5-minute audio fishing report. By the way, I can put buttons on the bottom of it. You can tie into where I go to get onto the lake, what it's going to cost me, make that purchase so you can get to the lake.
From a educational standpoint here, and I work with young people in colleges and even in high school as some kind of a media educator. Are you now looking for the jack of all trades, the multimedia journalist? This kind of adds. You can't just have somebody who knows how to write an article. Now you have to have them actually use their smartphone to record an event or continue to advance the story that person is putting out there. Is that not what you're looking for now?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's just progressed that way anyway. I mean, if you look at, if I look at the hires that are coming in or the new journalists coming in, when I started out, I had been on radio show. I had a radio show that I DJ'd on Friday. I had a news show that I did on TV, a local access TV thing that I do Friday morning, and then I'd come and do the newspaper and set it up. But it was all separate out. I mean, obviously you're jumping around from one to one. This combines all of them. The real thing I love about this is it takes newspapers. You have a printed copy, and you now are across that digital divide, gotten rid of the noise, and you actually have your printed copy, and you're taking them to the content they want. But as far as journalists coming up, they are going to be, and the beauty of it is with the smartphone and the progression of technology, these kids are consuming media and become media professionals by the time they get to
high
20.
school.
They all know how to do video. No, they all know how to do video. I was in the Apple store the other day buying a projector for conferences that I'm heading to, like the mega conference down in San Diego. So I need to, and there's a 5-year-old sitting on an iPad playing around.
Yeah.
I mean,
they
know how to do video, and the advancements of the smartphone, and that's the other piece that has made this possible. The latest break with the phones have progressed along that really you have a built-in camera studio off of your phone.
Right.
And they're all shooting video, and they're all social. Now, I will say, since we've come out, and our first issue that was interactive was February 9th, for the first time, including my own kids that are now one of them's in high school, but my own kids have called and said, my daughter, who's down in L.A., graduated 2 years ago from high school, said, I had 3 high school students call and say, I need to read your paper. What the hell are you doing?
Wow,
I've never had a kid read a paper in my life.
Well,
and I'm not saying they love newspaper, but you know what they do love?
It's
their phone.
Right. And it all, well, that's what I like about what you're doing is that as people have been looking to advance, the medium, journalism, and how can we get, make a living at this, and how can we get our content to the most people out there? Everything has focused solely on the digital. How can we move everyone to the digital space and away from the printed word on a hard copy? And because I'm an old school newspaper guy. The problem I have with the digital, well, one, it's separate. You're giving it all away on digital, and you have that divide that they put the paper down. And if you're all digital, that's cool. But think from a journalistic standpoint. On a digital format, I can go in any time I want and change that story and edit it without you knowing about it. Right.
It lowers the standard of journalism in the sense that you can edit it without letting the public know that it has been changed.
Yeah, you can get out your mistakes.
When it comes out in my newspaper in print,
it's there.
It is in black and white. It is there. It does not change. That's what I said. This is what happened. It's true journalism, and you have to have a higher standard to it. And I think that's the other piece I like about it.
No, you're right.
Have you noticed an increase in your circulation, if you don't mind me asking you that business? And what can you give me a percentage?
We're really early on. And like I said, I've had a dozen students that have called. In fact, I had a couple that called that want to do internships at the newspaper. And that, I've had some that are old school that have I love to write and it'll be fun. But these guys are very excited. And when it does 3D and connects with them on a different level of saying, okay, I can do video, I can do audio, I can do all these things, we have seen an increase. I don't have the direct number right now. I mean, it's probably a 2 or 3% shift up, but it's not dramatic, but it's also very early. I mean, I'm only in my second, third week of interactive pieces. I do know the readership has gone up. So my population is 32,000 for the county. And the first day that we came out with interactive news on February 9th, by 9 a.m., we had 10,000 triggers registered.
Wow. Oh, that's great. Now, so are you distributing your paper either through the mail or through a person-to-person service in your driveway? How do you distribute your newspaper?
We do the same thing as most. We do a mail service. We do a home delivery service in the area and by rack. I also do have a digital online piece. If you go to ledger.news, our newspaper there's a delayed piece. We have a flip book, digital version of the paper, if you will. If you go to archives, you can jump in there and see. And if you hold up your phone on the digital side there, it will work. I mean, it's not as great necessarily as the print product. See, I'm always selling the print product. But it will work on online. And there's some exciting pieces. I mean, we're just hitting the very beginning of, I talked to the other California papers yesterday, because the other nice thing about this is with the backing of the tribe as we are building this platform, I said, this is we think this is the greatest idea for Amador County and for our newspaper, but really this is the greatest idea, I believe, for any newspaper.
Exactly.
And we paid a ton of money, or I didn't, my tribe paid a ton of money to set the platform up. And I went to them and said, can we take this out to the other newspapers? And they said, well, absolutely, take it out to them. And I said, well, they're not going to pay $3,000 a month for a platform or whatever the number was. And he said, well, what are they going to pay? And I said, you need to bring that price way down. So now for about $750 a month, you can turn your entire product into interactive news. And then the other pieces we work on.
So you're now offering this service up as part of your company, right? For others who want. Oh, okay.
It's separate than the newspaper, but interactive news will be a platform that is available for all newspapers.
Wow. So
I'm not trying to hold on to this and say, okay, we developed this.
We're going to keep it right.
Yeah. No, this is for newspapers.
Are we going too far and maybe putting the cart in front of the horse here by saying this is the holy grail, if you will? This is what newspapers have been looking for, something that would keep hard copy newspapers going along in tandem with the digital space? Is that too much to say that, or too early?
I think, well, I can tell you the thing that's going to be the holy grail for newspapers. Solid journalism is the holy grail.
Yeah, but solid, you can get. Yeah, but you can get. I agree with you, but that you can get solid journalism everywhere, not necessarily on a hard copy.
They've always said content is king, and we all know it's a lie. Dollar is the king.
Well, true. Yep.
And then as soon as the dollar goes down, what do? They cut content. You know why you don't see TV guides running newspapers? Because they can't make money on TV guides. You want to know why they're having less content? You wonder why you're not seeing as much. Well, when the numbers got rough, what's the first thing they cut? The newsroom. Yep. We're trying to find a platform that's cost-effective and affordable for any newspaper. And when I say that $750 a month, I'm talking any size newspaper.
Wow.
I knew I could afford it to buy the masthead for that price. If a big guy wants it, the New York Times wanted it, they're going to pay $750. And someone said, well, they're going to make millions off of you. And I said, yeah, but I'm hoping they're going to invest back into those newsrooms.
That's nice.
Wow.
For me, this is the idea. I will say I'm fascinated by the idea. I love the idea, obviously, but it's really easy to say that when it's your idea.
Yeah,
I went and talked to the papers yesterday, the California Newspaper Press Association. I'm heading down to the mega conference, and I'll be on the East Coast at America East in Hershey, Pennsylvania for that conference, and I'm hopeful that the newspapers will see the opportunity and what they can do. And I'm also hopeful to collaborate with them to develop this. One of the pieces we're working on right now is the language converter, which basically, when you look at my newspaper, you wave it over, it goes in any language.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, we had someone on our show a few weeks ago from Travis the Translator. They have a product where you can 80 languages. You just speak and it translates for you in real time.
So we're working with those guys and our programmers to develop that. But I don't know if it's the holy grail. I will say it's a lot of fun. We've seen a dramatic increase in our revenues here from our advertisers already, which is nice. And we're also getting a lot of compliments on the deeper content. And the nice thing there is it's unique content. I think that's one of the key pieces too. It's the unique content that floats behind in the augmented reality experience.
Now, as we wind down here, are you concerned at all that this could be just the wow factor of new technology and then people go back to doing what they were doing before? Or you think this has legs? That beyond just this is really cool, I can't believe it, that it will be something people will continue to grow to embrace on an ongoing basis?
Well, I think that, the technology always progresses. I can look down the line and say, okay, what's going to happen in 2 years, 5 years, or whatever? If you think it's a gimmick, you're wrong. I can tell you the people that I've run into are like, this is fascinating. It's a game changer, not just for newspaper, but for, if you think about textbooks in schools, and anything in print can become an augmented reality piece.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Where you can tie content with it. So I think it's going to be around, and it's going to be something that you're going to see that breaks out. Now, obviously, I'm in the newspaper industry, so I'm doing it through newspapers. Certainly, the entertainment world has been using it for a long time. Universal Studios, Disney, NASA, they all have been in augmented reality. And people have dabbled with it. It just happens that I came across a platform, and for whatever reason, we missed the opportunity. I mean, this has been around for a while. We just didn't, no one stopped and said, I mean, that's my wife's favorite question is, Jack, I know you, you're not that smart. How did you figure this out, or why is no one doing this? This is her big question. Why is no one doing this? And the answer is, I don't know. We missed it, but I know some of it also is just the crowding of everything that's coming in and the speed at which stuff comes in. There's companies that are very focused on virtual reality with the special goggles and the piece. And that's the other piece I love about this is that everyone has a cell phone. The virtual reality,
you got to get the goggles.
You have to buy goggles or whatever, and it's expensive. a platform that everyone has a phone and then grab a printed product, they can have some fun and go to places they never thought possible.
See, Dan, you can use this in the classroom. He and I disagree about the smartphone in the classroom all the time.
Check the smartphone at the door.
And I want now you have a reason to keep
now
it.
I do.
Now
yes.
you have a reason to keep it and use it.
As long as you have a hard copy newspaper there with you.
That's right.
I know. I grew up in Rochester, Minnesota, and it was home of the Mayo Clinic, and my father happened to be a dean of the medical school and was a doctor there for years. I showed it to him. He's now in his 80s or late 70s, and he said to me, he said, even from a medical standpoint, he goes, if I had textbooks and was talking about a procedure and they could hold their phone over and watch that procedure perform,
wow.
that is
right.
massive. If you are discussing history and you have a current history class and you can hold a phone over your textbook to see,
makes it much more
what
interesting.
Happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of different applications to this.
That's great. Do you need an entree?
It's going to be a $22 billion industry, is projected. Let me put it this way: if it's just a fad, I'd be really shocked. Pokemon Go was kind of a fad. There's still people that it was. They almost made $1 billion searching for little animals around the world.
Wow.
Would you like
How much money are you going to make when they're searching for real content that affects their lives, and it's local, deep, with live talking and direction? Like I said, for me, we bring newspapers to life. It's the newspaper of the future today.
Would you like an entree? Would you like an entree to the Boston Globe? Because I do know a few people there, including the sports editor.
Yeah, no, this is for everybody. I said, I'm a little guy. I just told you, I've got 6,000 subscribers. I'm in
Amazing.
Northern California. My biggest problem will be trying to figure out how to tell everybody this is what we're doing.
Well, you're doing a good job. You're doing a very good job.
Holding on to
You're getting the word out there, and I'm glad we saw it.
Making a lot of noise.
Yeah,
I'm glad you did too.
Yeah,
and I really am hopeful that the newspapers across the country that are saying, hey, we might want to try something different, or that want to look at something, call me up and say, hey, you know what, this is a platform that we see as adding to our value and adding to what we provide. And then I hope they make a boatload of money and hire a bunch of reporters.
Maybe you make that the caveat, that you only give them that deal if they plan to reinvest in their news operation, not just make the overall corporate numbers look better. And if they do, then the price goes up.
Ooh.
I actually we considered having a piece just like that, but I can't. The one piece I won't do is tell other newspapers how to run their operation.
Yeah, that's not. Well, I think the takeaway from all of this is that you should drink plenty of wine, get drunk, and then and then ask your wife.
I'll be doing that tonight.
Ask your significant other for advice.
The way you think.
What is a good number or whatever you want to put out there? A way for people to find out more about it. What's the web address or contact?
My email address is jmitchell@ledger.news. J M as in Mary, ITCHELL @ledger.news. Or you can give me a call at 209-223-8761. I'm going to be down at the mega conference in San Diego this coming week, and I'll be in Hershey, Pennsylvania at America East later in March. But I'm willing to fly or go anywhere if anyone's interested in looking at this and wants more information. There's a number of videos up on YouTube that I've put out there.
Yeah, we saw some of
those. A lot
of them. Very good.
Just me a lot of it's just me babbling.
It's good stuff. That's all good. Look, we enjoy.
If they want to get a hold of me, I hope they
will. I'm sure they will. And look, I have to say, we've had a number of good guests on, but you were great. I thought we were just going to be talking about the technology and all, but there was a little bit of humor in there as well. Made it fun. It was a fun conversation.
And I wrote down 19 Crimes Wine.
Yes. And if you're going to do it by the case. You might come up with a great idea.
Okay.
Thanks
you so much.
Jack Mitchell, publisher of the twice weekly Ledger Dispatch in Jackson, California, joining us on the WorkSass phone line. Thank you. Okay, if you like the show, share it, subscribe to us on iTunes, and keep listening to Behind the Media. This is, of course, our fourth quarter, last but not least. And this is Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
Sometimes you don't want the full course meal. All you desire is a few bites. Bites behind the media, that is. This week, why KFC became FCK, Jimmy.
Oh, my goodness. So poor poor Kentucky Fried Chicken in England. If you happen to be looking for Kentucky Fried Chicken in England over the last week or so, you could find the store, but they did not have any chicken left.
What happened?
The carrier of the chickens, by the way, you got to figure, but yeah, these are Kentucky Fried Chickens. I'm going to guess they're somehow, some way in America, and they have to get exported to another country, so they have to have a service to do that. I'm going to throw DHL under the bus.
Oh, that's who it was?
That's who it was.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And they screwed up the delivery to England, so poor Kentucky Fried Chicken lovers in England could not get their chicken.
It's a whole supply chain debacle.
And they got absolutely killed in the media around England, and they felt bad about it. They absolutely felt bad about it. And in fact, they took
a lot of articles written on this.
They took out a full-page ad. They took out a full-page. Everybody knows the logo, right? It's the letter K, F, and C, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Right.
Yes.
Okay, no spelling. You don't have to spell it. We know it's KFC.
KFC, yes.
So what they did to say I'm sorry is they took out 2 full-page ads in the tabloids of English print.
Yes.
And by the way, imagine if they had this augmented reality thing that Jack has.
Oh, that'd be
I'm
wonderful.
just saying.
Yes.
So instead of KFC,
hover over the sign. Go to the restaurant, hover over the sign, and find out our apology.
In big letters, FCK, and it's in Kentucky Fried Chicken logo style.
Yes.
And it says, "We're sorry, we ran out of chickens." And it's great. It's a great example, actually, of crisis management when you think about it.
Sometimes
right?
you be very honest with your audience, transparent, poke a little fun at yourself.
Oh my God!
And
own
I think
it.
people own it.
Own it.
Own it. That's right.
That's what my honey says to me all the time when I screw
What if
up.
you make a mistake?
That's right.
Own the mistake.
All right, I own it, and so does KFC and FCK and all that neat stuff. So they're out there, and once a year. Oh, I know it's Wellesley at night.
Right.
Once a year, I have Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah.
Once a year.
I used to eat Kentucky Fried Chicken back in college. I haven't that usually when I'm on the
Once a
road.
year.
Yeah, it's okay to hit
Once a year.
My small bite. Actually, that bite was actually about food.
Yes,
so that's
it was.
interesting. This one isn't.
But we spell it differently.
Yes, we do.
BYTE.
As opposed to a bite.
Megabytes.
As opposed
gigabytes.
to eating bite, which
Right.
is BITE.
Right.
Nice spelling
you.
class here. Thank you,
you.
Miss Durant from my spelling class back in middle school. Anyway, Billy Graham, whose faith and media savvy moved mountains, he passed away at 99 years old. The reason I wanted to include him in here, he was one of the early ministers who really understood the medium. And while he was a conservative Christian, always would counsel people of any faith and be there and help them, all presidents and a lot of corporate leaders, but really tapped into how to reach the masses, not only in these large events that he would host around the world. I think he went to 180 countries, but also on television and on radio. He was everywhere across all mediums that were available at the time. And Jimmy, you and I were talking about this, how over the past decades, there have been a number of big-name televangelists, the Jimmy Swaggarts of the world, or the Baker,
Jim Baker
and Tammy Faye Baker,
yep.
who were they preached one thing and did another in their private lives, and this was someone who was out there in the public spotlight for 99 years, most of the 99 years. And he was controversial sometimes in what he did and what he said. He was caught on the Nixon tapes talking about Jews and the media. But he always had this, clean image, never got into any kind of controversy, large controversy, some in the ways that we have seen some others. And a real tribute to him. And as he's passed away, a lot of people remembering him this week. And,
of course, way ahead of his time, because now live streaming is part of many religious services, whether they be of any faith,
exactly,
I might add.
Yeah, no,
okay?
Definitely.
All
so
right.
That's a bite. That's my bite for the week.
Okay, here's another bite for you. Speaking of conservative rights.
Oh,
okay?
yes, go ahead.
Our friends at Twitter.
Yes.
Our friends at Twitter, they're actually seeking out and shutting down automated accounts that pretend to be real people, as, of course, pressure mounts to purge the service of bots that are artificially inflate follower counts and advertising metrics. And, of course, if you've been reading or hearing about the news lately, there's something to do with a country on the other side of the world.
Oh, yeah?
Russia.
Could it be Russia?
Did something with our election here using this. But
and
anyway,
with our electricity. anytime. And our I think our Wi-Fi
Yes.
as well. Remember yesterday we had problems with the Wi-Fi?
Yes, we did.
The Russians.
So you think that was the
I
Russians?
think it was the Russians.
We blame everything on the Russians.
Blame it on the Russians.
Blame it on the
Whenever
Russians.
I trip on the sidewalk,
By
the
the way,
Russians did it.
How dumb
Yes.
are the Russian athlete who got nailed for having something in his blood that was a banned substance during the Olympics that his country is already banned from for doping?
Yeah, but
okay, and
Jimmy,
in the sport of curling.
Yeah, but Jimmy, what do you have in your blood today?
I don't want to know. Thank you very much. That being said, actually today, not too bad. Not too bad.
I have blood in my blood today.
That's right, and I'll be having some wine tonight. But anyway,
Yes.
researchers say as many as 15% of Twitter users from these could be fake accounts. Now, of course, Twitter says that's far less. But a lot of the right-wing and conservative folks were very upset that even their Twitter followings had fallen off because of this new policy. And you know what?
A lot of people got caught up in this. I know some people who woke up and they were locked out of their accounts, and it was quite messy. And so it's quite controversial.
I'm supposed to tweet.
Yeah, I was good there for a while.
It is just too much. You know what? I like to speak, and if you want to listen, you can. If you don't, guess what? You don't have to.
Yes. Well, one other quick little bite. I have to say, I was ranting and raving last week about how I wasn't happy with what had been going on with the Olympics. Lackluster, just didn't have the same excitement that you typically see around Olympics. The ratings have been down in general, but I just couldn't stay away from it, Jimmy. And I have to say that there were some moments, and what I will point out is that NBC has. Unlike in past Olympics, they really have broadened where you can get different aspects of the Olympics. So they have one channel that's just dedicated to offering up news highlights throughout the day. So you don't have
the Olympic channel.
Yes, but not the Olympic channel that's just doing live events. It's one that's packaging, and it's not. They're not using the A-list team here. It's
right.
And so then there was these folks, and they did
Isn't
this.
that funny?
It's. I think they found people on the street and said, hey, would you like to be a reporter for a day?
Right.
But I have to say it's great because I watch that channel whenever I want to figure out what did I miss, and they'll do the recap of everything, every single sport, and then they'll pick the highlight. Or, for example, as you know, I don't like hockey. And I don't like watching a hockey game.
Yet it's the biggest story so far of these Olympic games.
And the women in the shootout, I didn't see the game, but they just ran the shootout portion. I was over the moon watching that. It was so exciting. And so thanking NBC for adding yet another layer of excitement to an otherwise Olympics.
Well, it's funny. I hate the shootout, but it was exciting. I hate that. I just don't like the way to end the game. End the game. You know what? Keep playing until you can't skate anymore, and especially for a gold medal for a single elimination tournament like they have set up. But congratulations to the United States women's Olympic hockey team. They got it right, and I'll tell you, Canada. There was a little bit of a controversy.
There was that
one of the players decided to. Once they had their silver medal,
they took it off or something?
She took it right off, and then later apologized about it on Twitter. Yeah. That being said,
I took silver out of my teeth one time, but I didn't take it off from around my neck.
No, and you know what? How many people would love to have a silver medal out of the Olympics? And it's kind of a slap in the face to fellow competitors.
That
but
happens
I think
all the time, though.
She learned her lesson. We understand it's the immediacy of it. It was right after the game.
And it plays out around the world.
And that's what we do now.
That's what we do. It's been a fantastic show, Jimmy.
We had fun today.
Every single week I just marvel at how it just feels good. It gets better, and it's not just because we're producing it ourselves here with our team, but it really is a wonderful, fun show.
Yeah,
it is, and I think we're providing information as well.
We try to. We absolutely try to, and I like the fact that we are, even though we disagreed on a few things this week, we know we part friends, which is so important to me.
Well, that's what you say. Anyway, if you'd like to engage with us, interact with us, use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and find us on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Thanks for listening. For our director, Stephen Helmuth, producer, social media guru Alex Barth, and executive producer Jonathan Sloan, I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
And until next week, bye-bye.